All right, let's dive right into the second juz of the Quran. Honestly, this part is pretty much the spiritual heart of the entire month of Ramadan. If you've ever really wondered, why do we fast? What's the secret behind the power of our dua? Or why do we face the tests we do this month? Well, the answers are right here. So let's get into it. So the juz kicks off with this really intriguing, almost confrontational title, Sayaqul. It literally means the foolish will say. Right away, it tells you we're stepping into a situation of conflict, a real test of conviction where some people are about to mock and question a huge command from God. And that's really the big question here, isn't it? How does some ancient story about people mocking a command connect to you, right now, to your experience of fasting, of praying, of struggling through the day? Well, you're about to see the connection is way deeper than you might think. Okay, so the first thing this juz hits us with is this foundational test of faith. This was something that really defined the entire early Muslim community. And we're not talking about a small request here. This was a massive public declaration of where your allegiance truly lies. So here's what was going on. The early Muslims were praying towards Jerusalem. Then, out of nowhere, the command comes down, turn around, a full 180 degrees, and face the Kaaba in Mecca instead. And just like the title of the juz predicted, the foolish people mocked them, they tried to sow doubt, but Allah is so clear. He calls it what it is, a test. It was designed to see who would really follow the messenger and who would just turn back on their heels. And this is just a perfect mirror for our own daily test in Ramadan. I mean, every single day we have to make a choice, right? Are we going to follow our own comfort? That urge for a little more sleep, a little less thirst, a little more distraction. Or are we going to follow Allah's command to fast, to pray, to reflect? The Qibla change teaches us that real faith is about being able to say, we hear and we obey, even when it's tough. Okay, so if the Qibla change was that big, external test of obedience, this next part dives deep into the internal reason for it all. Why do we even fast? Well, this juz gives us the single most important verse on that very question in the entire Quran. And boom, right here, verse 183. This is the answer. Fasting is prescribed, but for a very specific goal. It's not just about tradition or discipline or even feeling what the poor feel, though those are all great side effects. The ultimate purpose is spelled out right at the end of the verse, so that you may attain taqwa. So what exactly is taqwa? You often hear it translated as fear of God, but it's so much richer than that. A better way to think of it is God consciousness. It's that constant internal awareness that Allah is watching, and that awareness inspires you to do good and guard yourself from doing wrong. It's the reason you don't take a sip of water when nobody's looking. It's what pushes you to be a little more patient, a little more generous. Fasting is literally the gym for this spiritual muscle. Now here's where it gets really beautiful. Right in the middle of all these verses about the rules and regulations of fasting, it's like Allah hits the pause button. He stops talking about the law to give us one of the most personal and intimate verses in the entire Quran. We shift from legislation to a love letter. Just look at the intimacy in these words. Allah says, when my servants ask you about me, I am near. He doesn't say, go tell them that I am near. No, he speaks directly in the first person. This is an unfiltered, direct promise of closeness and response, and it's placed right in the heart of the verses on fasting for a reason. The key word here is qarib, which means near. And here's something that might just blow your mind. Scholars point out that most of the time in the Quran, when the Prophet is asked a question, the verse starts with qul, which means say. It's a command. Say this to them. But not here. Allah completely removes the intermediary. It's as if he's leaning in to answer your question himself. This verse is here to shatter any idea of distance between you and your Creator. Okay, so we've got these huge concepts, the test of obedience, the goal of taqwa, and this promise of incredible closeness. The beautiful thing is, this juz doesn't just give us these big ideas and leave us hanging. It shows us exactly how they play out in our everyday lives during Ramadan. See, this juz isn't just a text you read. It's a script that you actively live out every single day this month. Let's just zone in on a couple of key moments in your day where you are literally fulfilling the commands and embodying the lessons found right here in these verses. I want you to think about those precious few moments right before sunset. Your throat is dry, your energy is completely gone, and in that moment of vulnerability, you raise your hands to make dua. When you do that, you are personally, actively living out verse 186. So at that moment, it's not just a hopeful plea into the universe. You are claiming a divine promise. You're calling upon the one who has explicitly told you, I am near, I respond. This verse should give you absolute, rock-solid certainty in those moments before you take that first date. Okay, now fast forward to the night prayer. You're standing in Taraweeh, your feet are aching, your mind is maybe wandering a bit, and you can just feel the exhaustion of the day. Well, that physical and spiritual endurance is a direct application of another major verse from this very juz. That's verse 153. The fasting during the day, that's the patience. The standing at night, that's the prayer. You are literally seeking Allah's help through the exact two things He prescribed. That discomfort you feel isn't for nothing. It's an act of worship, a form of patience that Allah promises He is with. And to wrap it all up, the Juz concludes with this powerful, timeless story that serves as a perfect metaphor for every single struggle we face, especially those challenges that feel impossibly huge during Ramadan. We all know the story, right? On one side, you have Jalut, aka Goliath, this massive, intimidating giant with a huge, terrifying army. And on the other side, you have Dawood, or David, with just a small, seemingly insignificant group of true believers. The odds, they look completely hopeless. But this verse right here is the punchline the Quran wants you to internalize. It's not about numbers. It's not about physical strength. Victory comes by Allah's permission. This story is in here to remind you that your own bad habits, your laziness, your doubts, whatever your personal inner giant is, it can be defeated, not by your strength alone, but by your faith and your trust in Allah. So let's wrap this up. What are the crucial lessons from Juz 2 to carry with you this Ramadan? First, the whole point of your fast is to build taqwa, that deep internal awareness of God. Second, always remember that Allah is Qarib. He is near, so when you call on Him, do it with certainty. Third, true obedience is all about trusting Him, especially when it feels like a test. And finally, remember that victory over your own challenges comes from faith, not just your own power. And I want to leave you with this final thought. Verse 186 isn't just some historical statement. It's a present-day reality. Allah is Qarib. He is near, right now, in this very moment. He hears every single whisper of your heart. So the question to reflect on is this. What is that one thing you've been too afraid, or maybe too embarrassed, or just too hopeless to ask Him for? Ask Him tonight. He is near, and He responds.